Hi again. Welcome to another episode of Book Talk with Tracy. I'm coming to you from yet another room in my home. I call this my studio, my art studio, because I do art as well. And basically, this is just where I hang everything that hasn't sold or been commissioned or that I kind of like, but hasn't really found another home anywhere else. So I am here today to talk about my book, Wind Over Marshdale. And I thought this was a good room to talk to you about this book because I have been showing you some of the paintings that I've been doing or have done based on my books that I've been inspired. And you can see there's one behind me there. It's the skull with the two faces superimposed on it. So I did that when the book was still being written, and because there is a lot of there's some imagery about buffalo, and if you've ever been to the prairies, not so much now, but there used to be just buffalo skulls lying around apparently, and things like that. So I thought that was kind of a cool symbol or imagery to have on the book. It didn't really make it to the cover, although you see there is a buffalo here on the cover as well. But I want to talk today about this book. It came out in 2012. It was published by Astrea Press, who are now Clean Reads is their name. And I was fortunate enough to have an agent who found this particular book deal for me with Astrea Press at the time. And the book did fairly well. It won an award, the Grace Award in 2012 or 13 for romantic suspense, I believe. Anyway, and it does have a fair bit of suspense in it. It is definitely a romance, and it's definitely got some suspense and some other intriguing elements in it like that. So part of why I wrote this book, or part of the inspiration for this book, I guess, was my own hometown. I grew up in Saskatchewan in a small town called Mossbank. And this book is called Wind Over Marshdale, which is a fictitious place. But very loosely, the setting is my hometown. And so when I describe, the one lone main street and the fact that there's no trees except if someone planted them, when I talk about the sound of the wind in the grass, or the way the grain blows and it almost looks like waves on the ocean, that's real. That's where I grew up. And so for me, the smell of the harvest time in the fall, the smell of that grain in the air, and just the sights and the sounds and the feel of living on the prairies was a huge inspiration for me in writing this book. I'm reminded of a book by Henry Ripplinger called If You're Not From the Prairies. And it's a children's picture book, I guess, but it's profound for those of us who grew up there because it is such a part of me, that prairie girl. Even though I don't live there anymore. I moved away more than 25 years ago, and I've lived in a lot of different places, but the prairies, and my province of Saskatchewan especially, still has a really, really special place in my heart, and I'm deeply rooted there. And most of my family still live there too. So that's part of where the inspiration for this book came from, certainly in terms of the setting. However, I will say Mossbank doesn't have maybe all of the evil that presents itself in this book. I'm sure that's not the case because it's a wonderful place and the people there are great. But some of the characters and the ideas for the variety of characters came out of other places that I've lived, because I have lived in a lot of places, moved about 30 times. And so you'll find strange people wherever you go. There's always certain characters that live in towns. The crazy person, so to speak. And so I sort of took a lot of those tropes and put them together in this book. So I'm keeping it short. We'll talk more about the book itself and some of the plot lines and some of my other inspiration in my next episode. But in the meantime, if you haven't read this book, I really recommend it. It is probably still my best-selling novel to date. And you can get it anywhere good books are sold, or you can visit my website, tracykrause.com. And if you do enjoy that book or any of my books, please consider leaving a review. Thanks.